Hello, my name is Dan, and I'm a robotics researcher, or I was a robotics researcher. I was an undergrad in mechanical engineering, and I always thought, well, I like to build things, and I certainly loved Transformers and G.I. Joe and Star Wars and Star Trek and all those things when I was little, so robots have been on my mind for a really long time. When I came to grad school, when I was an undergrad, I studied mechanical engineering at MIT, and then for grad school, I worked in the leg laboratory, which was an absolute dream come true for me. We worked on walking robots, and I specifically got to work on a robot that was essentially a torso and two legs, trying to study how human walking works. Also at that time, briefly, I worked on a prosthetic knee project. This was a project sponsored by a small company in California, a prosthetics company, and run largely by a recent Harvard grad who was doing a postdoc in the lab, and a good friend of mine, Hugh Hare. And Hugh was missing both his legs below the knees, so he had connections with people in prosthetics because of his own condition and some independent inventing he had done for his prosthetics. And this landed the lab a grant to build a intelligent robotic artificial knee. And he shared that project with the main director of the lab, Gil Pratt. When I finished my work for my master's thesis on the walking robot, it was at this point that the main director of the lab left, and I decided to take a year off to work for a company. This company I worked for was also a robotics research company. We were trying to build a quadruped running robot for the military that's not unlike the Big Dog project that you can see videos of on YouTube, although we didn't have near this much money, and mostly we only did simulations and we did some mechanical design. Afterwards, I went back to school, and at this time when I went back to school, Hugh had gotten a professor job and was continuing prosthetics research and also looking into orthotics and exoskeletons. And so I worked for him on some exoskeleton research and began to work a little bit on a couple additional robotic prosthetic projects. Somewhere around this time, I don't remember the dates exactly, but the Iraq War happened. And the Iraq War changed the military funding a little bit. They diverted some of their research money from some of the far-out projects to more near-term projects, and some of the walking robot stuff seemed to suffer a little bit as it was seen to not be immediately useful. But one thing that was very definitely noticeable is that at some point, a couple years into the war, they started coming out with more solicitations for prosthetic design. And at the time it didn't necessarily occur to me. It maybe occurred to me a little. It's difficult for me to tell in retrospect how conscious of it I was at the time, but I believe I was somewhat conscious of it, and I've sort of become more conscious of it. But this general trend that rather than addressing the problem at hand, which may be that it was a bad decision to go to war in the first place and the policy of the war was wrong, that we're going to invest more money in technology, and specifically we're investing money in technology in these robotic artificial limbs because so many soldiers are coming back with their limbs missing. So given this fact, given the fact that so many soldiers are coming back with their limbs missing, then it's really important for the government to show that they're committed, and then also to see these fancy new technological developments that make it seem like Luke Skywalker when he gets his hand back and he moves his hand and there's a robot inside his hand. And throughout my entire grad school career, I received funding from the military, and eventually I actually left grad school before finishing my PhD because, for a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons is that I lost passion for the work for one reason or another. I think for many reasons, but certainly one of those reasons was this idea that the military-industrial complex and so many of these research initiatives are chasing a high-technology solution when the problem is much deeper than that. The problem has to do with the way humans make decisions and things of these nature, and the nature of conflicts and things like that, and that we generally tend to think of technology as a solution rather than social science or behavioral sciences or other negotiation or economic tactics that are a little bit more abstract and not as well defined. Technical problems are very easy to define in concrete terms, and they're easier to measure in many ways, and I think that makes them more attractive. When I was working on some of these exoskeleton and some of these robotic prosthetic limbs, an ankle in particular and a knee unit, the knee unit that I first worked on I was a peripheral member of the team. I definitely was not a core member of this team, but I did work on the project. It is now a product from a company in Iceland called Ossur, O-S-S-U-R, the Rio knee, and it's a really nice product. People like it a lot. And this was the one that was originally corporate funded from the beginning, and then some of the ending part was funded through the government. And then there's a robotic ankle that was developed in the lab and has 2 patents associated with it. One patent which my name is on, and I was a member of the team as well. I was not the primary designer of the device, but I worked as a member of the design team on the project, and the design is ongoing. It's being turned from a research device into a product, and I believe it's a great product. But the issue of this sort of military-industrial complex and sort of how I felt as a grad student, and one day when my brother came in to visit. My brother is an emergency medical doctor, and at the time was with the Navy. He had done Navy ROTC to pay for med school, and he, after giving him a tour and showing him all the work, he was excited, and he said, "Oh, this is really great stuff. It's cool that you get to do high technology and get to do technology that helps people." And it was really weird for me at the time, because at the time I was not excited about what I was doing at all. I had very negative feelings for a variety of reasons, as I said before, and that's, I think, one of the times when I really started to think about this. Why am I being bothered by this thing? And I continue to be bothered by this, and it's amazing that we're still there. And it's amazing that these people are still coming home in the condition that they're coming home in, and that there's not a more active dialogue. And if you think about the problem-solving brain power that's applied to designing the robotic limb, and the problem-solving brain power that's goes into creating these weapons, tanks, etc. And if you think, what if I redirected that problem-solving brain power to the abstract and or not even abstract, the direct problem of the conflict itself? But that, of course, is an issue of hierarchy and security and the way these systems are so big and so ingrained that they don't move very fast. They resist change, and as a result, they get themselves into trouble. All that said, I'm excited about the progress that a lot of the research into prosthetics has achieved, and it's an exciting field for sure. But in my heart, I hope in some ways that some of that money is actually diverted to alternate research paths, because I think could be better ways to do this. Thanks.